The headlines were brutal, the accusations public, and just like that, a family legacy was on the verge of implosion.
Welcome to the deep dive.
Join us as we uncover Hollywood drama, music industry shakeups, and viral influencer scandals. From red carpet surprises to social media controversies, we dive deep into the stories behind the fame.
And today we are absolutely diving into a story that, on the surface, just looks like the messiest kind of tabloid chaos you can imagine.
We're talking about the very public downfall of Freddy Brazier, the 21-year-old son of Jeff Brazier, and the late iconic Jade Goody.
And what makes this so much more than just another celebrity scandal are the stakes. I mean, the emotional and frankly the legal stakes are incredibly high.
Catalyst was this series of really specific and very public accusations from his pregnant ex-girlfriend, Holly Swinburn. This is all happening in late 2025.
So our mission here is to really connect the dots, to link Freddy's recent, very visible conduct to the long-term clinical pressures and the intense family spotlight that have really defined his entire life.
And you need to grasp this context right away because the timing is just, it's almost unbelievable. This whole crisis exploded just weeks before his first child was due to be born. And if that wasn't enough, the news of his split with Holly broke just hours after reports came out that his own father, Jeff Brazier, had also quietly ended his marriage.
And that confluence of events is just critical. It points to this massive collective destabilization of the family.
The anchor is gone.
Exactly. The main source of stability, his dad, was going through his own crisis right when Freddy, who we know has severe mental health challenges, needed that structure the most.
Which sets the stage perfectly for the first part of this deep dive.
Yeah.
Two crises that hit him at the exact same time.
His public and his private life, both just shattered.
So, headline number one, of course, was the relationship collapse. It was volatile right from the jump.
Yeah.
They meet on TikTok in June 2025. By August, they've announced a pregnancy. He's 21, she's 22, and now she's publicly stating her intention is to raise the baby completely alone.
That timeline by itself just screams stress. It's so fast.
And that private chaos immediately spills into the most public arena you can think of through the second headline.
Yeah.
The ban from Sheesh.
Right. And Sheesh is not just a restaurant.
No. For anyone who doesn't know, Sheesh in Chigwell. Essex is the celebrity spot. It's where you see the Toye stars, Premier League footballers, even people like Harry Styles. Getting banned from there is a huge public shaming.
It's a broadcast to your entire social world that you are right now too unstable to be around.
And the sources were not kind about the details. They were brutally clear. It was an unpleasant incident. Freddy was overindulging in alcohol and was, quote, being sick everywhere. And here is the absolute key to the whole thing. The media reports confirm this happened the day after his breakup.
And that link changes everything. It's not just a young guy being reckless.
No.
It's a direct symptomatic reaction to overwhelming emotional distress. His very public, very destructive failure to cope was a direct result of the relationship ending.
But to really get the full picture, we have to look past the bar ban and into the actual dispute because you've got two completely different stories being told.
Oh yeah, a classic contested narrative. And what's so fascinating is the level of detail in Holly Swinburn's claims. She laid her case out, a lot of it on social media, with really damaging specifics.
She claimed repeated verbal abuse, right? Saying Freddy called her fat, AS, just horrible derogatory things when they fought.
And then the final straw, the thing that she said was the catalyst for the end, wasn't just words, it was about what happened in her home.
The domestic negligence part. She was away on holiday, and she claims he hosted a party in her flat without permission, let strangers in, and didn't take care of her dog, Pablo.
And the dog detail is the one that really sticks.
It always does. That paints a picture of such profound immaturity and, frankly, irresponsibility. It makes her decision to go in alone seem completely justified.
It does, and she said she even got a message at 3 in the morning with a photo. 5 people, 2 other women, smoking cannabis. That's what led her to believe he was having drug-fueled parties.
Which is an explosive claim. So how on earth did Freddy respond to all this?
Well, he went into total damage control mode. He fiercely denied the worst of it. The talk of an orgy or a drug party, he called all that sick and totally untrue.
But, and there's a huge but here.
A huge one. He admitted the gathering happened. He admitted they did go up to our flat and had a spliff, and that's it.
That one admission just sinks his entire defense, doesn't it? I mean, even if it wasn't a drug party, Admitting you use your pregnant girlfriend's flat without permission to smoke weed with your friends is a massive breach of trust.
It is. By admitting to the unauthorized gathering and the drug use, even if he minimized it as just a spliff, he confirmed a serious boundary violation.
It makes the public doubt everything else he's denying.
Exactly. His actions confirm the irresponsibility, even if he denies the malice, and it just critically damages his image and his readiness to be a father.
And you could tell he knew it. He publicly said he was afraid Holly's statements could, quote, cost me work and damage my relationship with my child when they're born.
And later in this deep dive, we'll get into just how real that legal danger actually is.
Okay, so this brings us to the real pivot point of the story. This is where it shifts from just a messy celebrity breakup to something much deeper, a mental health crisis playing out for the world to see.
This is the real core of the analysis. You simply cannot talk about his recent behavior without understanding his documented long-term clinical history. He has formal diagnoses of bipolar disorder and ADHD since he was 10 years old.
And these aren't minor things. They fundamentally predispose him to issues with impulse control and emotional regulation, especially under stress.
Right. And that's the crucial distinction to make here. We're not excusing the behavior, but we are seeking to understand its source.
Okay, so connect the dots for us. How does a bipolar diagnosis lead to getting banned from a nightclub and the kind of verbal abuse Holly alleged?
Well, bipolar disorder, particularly when it's destabilized by a major stressor like a breakup, can severely impact the prefrontal cortex. That's the part of your brain that handles foresight, impulse control. Basically, your emotional brakes.
So the verbal abuse she reported would be consistent with that. A total collapse of those brakes.
Highly consistent. It's symptomatic dysregulation.
Yeah.
And his history shows just how severe these collapses can be for him.
And his history is. It's incredibly heavy.
It really is. There's a long-standing issue with substance dependence. He started smoking at age 12. He's been to rehab. And even more seriously, he's suffered manic episodes that led him to attempt to end it all.
He had suicidal ideation.
Yes. And the most powerful detail for me is that he was actually sectioned under mental health legislation. He spent his 18th birthday in a psychiatric ward.
Wow. See, that detail changes everything. This isn't just tabloid drama anymore. That is a life-threatening crisis.
Oh.
If you're finding this kind of analysis compelling, make sure you're subscribed. We have stories like this every week.
It completely reframes it. So when you look at the recent events, the extreme drinking at Sheesh, admitting to smoking cannabis in the flat, they aren't just isolated bad choices.
They're symptoms.
They are highly symptomatic of a relapse. The shift to acute alcohol use suggests he was desperate to numb or manage the overwhelming bipolar symptoms that the breakup had just unleashed.
So it's not calculated cruelty. It's a young man in the middle of a severe public clinical relapse whose impulse control just completely failed him at the worst possible moment.
Right. And that fragile recovery is playing out inside this pressure cooker of a family defined by this huge celebrity legacy.
Let's talk about that pressure. On one hand, you have his father, Jeff Brazier, who has publicly said he believes Freddy is a pioneer who will do something amazing in his lifetime.
Which is an almost suffocating amount of pressure to put on a young man who is struggling just to find basic stability.
It creates this huge internal conflict, right? The pressure to be a pioneer versus the reality of being sectioned, of addiction, of public failure.
And at the same time, you have this historically difficult relationship with his maternal grandmother, Jackie Budden, Jade Goody's mom. Jeff had to take legal action to limit her contact over feels of her harmful influence.
And those fears were kind of validated, weren't they, when those photos came out of Freddy sharing a suspicious-looking cigarette with her?
They were. It suggests that there are conflicting messages and boundaries around substance use within his own support system, which just makes sobriety that much harder to maintain.
All of which leads us to the final and maybe the most critical piece of this.
Yeah.
The immediate legal jeopardy all this creates for him as a father.
The legal vulnerability is extremely high, and it's immediate. Holly's legal team has a mountain of evidence to present in any custody hearing. The court's only job is risk assessment. Their priority is the child's safety, period.
So what specific risk factors would they point to?
They have a checklist: the formal bipolar diagnosis, the documented history of self-harm, the fact he was sectioned, the long-term substance abuse, and, critically, the very recent, very public incident of extreme intoxication, the Sheesh ban, and his own admission of drug use in the home.
That creates a clear case for mandatory supervision, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. It's highly likely that a court would mandate, at the very least, supervised contact with the newborn until Freddy can prove a long, sustained period of stability and that he's sticking with his therapy.
So his fear of damaging the relationship with his child wasn't paranoia. It was. It was a very realistic prediction.
That's right. The entire story, the breakup, the ban, the denials, it all synthesizes into this clear picture of a young man in clinical freefall. The stress just completely overwhelmed his fragile coping skills.
And his recovery is now a legal requirement, not just a personal goal.
Precisely. His path forward has to be a pivot from this reactive denial to proactive, structured therapy.
And this brings us to a final thought for you, the listener, to chew on as we wrap this up.
When we talk about recovery from mental illness or addiction, all the advice centers on privacy, stability, finding a safe space to heal.
But for someone like Freddy Brazier, with his documented issues, every single private stumble, getting sick in a bar, having a nasty fight with your partner, it's instantly broadcast to the world. It becomes a global headline.
Which creates this vicious, pernicious feedback loop. The stress of the media scrutiny triggers the symptomatic behavior.
And that behavior generates more media coverage, which creates more stress, and on it goes.
So the provocative thought we want to leave you with is this. What does that constant exposure mean for the very possibility of a sustainable recovery for young public figures?
Is it even possible to get stable when every crisis is immediately turned into content, essentially locking you in a cycle of relapse and public shame? Something to think about.
You've been listening to The Deep Dive, where we unpack the sources and reveal the connections you might have missed.
Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to subscribe